The film opens and a man named Isaac awakes in some dark chamber and takes off an oxygen mask. He looks at his reflection and wonders where he is, and someone says, "Good, you're awake." He has no memory of how he got here and doesn't know who the woman is. She says her name is Alana and that they launched this morning. He bangs on the door, but Alana says there is no possible way out. He then scans his hand, and a computer voice tells him her name is Eva and she is the emergency assistant. Isaac asks where they are and the voice says they are aboard their habitation capsule, which is approximately 150 miles above Earth. The camera pans out and we see they are in space. He panics and thinks there was a mistake, but Eva says he was selected for the Samsara project, which aims to build the first space colony by 2052. It also says there was some sort of emergency on the ship which dropped the oxygen's levels and summoned her. The two stand confused and something bangs against the window. He looks out and sees a massive explosion nearby. They look on in shock and realize their main ship where they were supposed to dock is completely destroyed. Isaac manages to call someone at the ground control center, but a shockwave hits and knocks out the call. The computer voice tells them they have used one of their 10 calls allowed each month. Then debris hits the ship and forms 2 holes, and one hits Isaac in the arm. They manage to seal them, and Alana bandages the wound as their call with ground control reconnects. The caller tells them their main ship is gone and their capsule is currently falling out of orbit. They need to try and conserve oxygen. He also asks them who woke up first, and Amara says Isaac did, which confuses him because it's not true. After the call, Isaac says it feels like there is something she is not telling him and she seems oddly calm. That night as they lay to sleep, they are called by a news reporter named Ken. They are the first passengers the news station was able to reach. After the interview, Isaac suddenly remembers everything. He reveals he shot a man but did not mean to kill him. Alana comforts him saying it's all right and she is a criminal too. Isaac wonders why they are together if criminals are usually separated. She climbs on top of him and says, "Isn't it obvious?" He says that he is in a relationship and she laughs saying he may change his mind up here. Later, Isaac manages to turn on a screen and watches the news. They talk about the prisoner program and an anchor says the Earth is being destroyed and they need to colonize space. And this gives the prisoners meaning. But the other anchor protests the idea and says they shouldn't have done this in secret with no say from the criminals. The next day get a call from the control and he tells them not to talk to the media because leaked information could jeopardize their safety. He then helps them manually control the system and get back into orbit. Finally, he tells them they are working on a solution, but Isaac questions what the problem even is. He says don't worry about it for now, then begins to question them if they have any remaining family members. But the capsule is beginning to pass behind the Earth where it will be dark, so he tells them to get some sleep and hangs up. That night, they sleep peacefully as they pass the Earth, but we see a warning flash on a screen. The control center calls in the morning and says there was a power failure that night, but it should be fixed since they're in the sun now. Control says they may be close to a rescue plan and hangs up. Isaac goes to wake up Alana but finds she is already awake and never slept, and was ignoring the call for some reason. Then the news station calls back and the anchor questions Isaac about why he killed a man. Isaac wants to keep his life private, but the anchor gets aggressive and accuses Isaac of causing the explosion. Isaac screams at him in anger and says, "How dare you?" But the anchor just hangs up. Then the two argue, but Alana says they are both the same. She questions him about his past and learns he was in the army. He says his girlfriend had a gambling problem and borrowed money from a criminal. She was unable to pay it back, so Isaac had to work for the man and rough up his enemies. He tried to quit, but they threatened his girlfriend and he was forced to carry out one more job. He robbed a man and shot him one time in the shoulder in self-defense. But the man somehow died and Isaac was framed for the death. But he states he was set up. The judge found him guilty and sentenced him to the space colonies to serve his prison time. And now he is here. Later, Isaac calls his girlfriend Kara. She is fine, but she says she saw on the news that he volunteered for the trip, which shocks Isaac. They talk and she apologizes to him, but he says goodbye because he may not make it back. On the ship, Isaac confronts Alana because he knows nothing about her. She eventually reveals she is an addict, but we see a flashback of her entering a house and killing 4 men. She says killing is her drug and she enjoys it, and thinks Isaac feels the same way as her but won't admit it. As they continue to float in space, Control calls and says they are almost ready to rescue them. However, he states that he knows one of them went onto the main ship before the big explosion. Suddenly, Amara screams and pretends that Isaac is attacking her, and Control asks what is happening. Amara says Isaac blew up the ship and now he is trying to kill her to stop her from talking. Isaac shouts she is lying, but the Control seems to believe her. The caller says if Amara is harmed they will abandon the rescue. Then he hangs up. Isaac confronts her and she says he is her ticket out of here, which is why he is still alive. He realizes she blew up the ship and questions why she did it. Alana says humanity was doomed anyway and she saved herself from a life of slavery in space. She then runs to the phone and calls the news station saying she has to confess what Isaac did. Isaac tries to stop her, but Amara takes him down with one hand and kicks him while he is on the ground. She tells the news anchor that Isaac blew up the ship because he wants the space program to be dismantled. She finally begs for help, then hangs up the phone. Isaac manages to take her down and punches her, but she regains control and chokes him. As they fight, Eva tells them a fire is detected. They put the fire out but begin to pass out due to the oxygen deprivation. Isaac tries to get up but falls again, barely able to breathe. Oxygen levels reach 2% and he is barely able to repressurize the cabin with the help of Eva. Then Control calls again and asks what is the status of Alana. Isaac says she is dead but he didn't kill her and he didn't destroy the ship. Control says they know he didn't do it because they checked the camera in their capsule. We then see a flashback of what actually took place. The main ship connected to their capsule and Alana was woken up by 2 guards. She says she thought this was a second chance. But they tell her she was wrong and now she will be forced to work for them and do whatever they want. She attacks them both and takes them out with a stolen taser. Alana then handcuffed them together and forced them back into the main ship, all while Isaac was still sleeping. Minutes later, Alana gets back into the capsule with fire exploding behind her. Eva goes into emergency procedure and flies away from the main ship. As they leave, the entire thing erupts into flames and is completely destroyed because of Alana. Now knowing what happens, Isaac sits in complete shock. The Control then says his capsule is too damaged and low on oxygen to be rescued. He apologizes and says they have no options that could reach him in time. Isaac then asks about re-entry, but Control says it is dangerous and he likely wouldn't make it because of the damage. Then, Isaac realizes the truth and says they weren't going to save them at all because of what Alana did. He learns there are 49 others trapped in space, and they were all framed and sent up as part of the experiment. None of them were actually dangerous criminals, but they made a mistake with Alana, who was violent and dangerous. The Control is not planning to save any of them and he hangs up. And Eva tells Isaac he has 1 call left. Later, Eva states the odds of survival for re-entry are 22%. And if he stays on the ship, he has 1 day left. He thinks this over, then calls Clara. She reveals the Prime Minister said he'll pardon anyone who makes it back. But Isaac says it's because no one will. He then breaks the bad news that no one is coming to save him and this is goodbye for real. He tears up and she tells him to not give up and take the chance to make it back. She also reveals she made a bet on whether he survives, which angers him. But he loves her so much he says he will try to make it back for her. As he prepares for re-entry, Alana suddenly wakes back up. She tasers Isaac and starts the thrust. He takes her down with the blowtorch, then places her into a bed and sedates her. They begin re-entry and Isaac straps himself in. The ship speeds over the Earth and picks up speed. It shakes and pushes through the atmosphere, forming flames at the point. Isaac stares straight ahead, eyes wide open. The movie comes to a close and their fate is left unknown.